Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Victory Leaders Lounge. I'm here with Wendi Wray, and we're going to have a great conversation about some stuff. She's another fellow veteran, which is perfect because we're about to go into Veterans Day weekend. So we'll get to her in just a second. But before I get to the good stuff, I always got to get the gaggy business stuff out of the way first. So let's go ahead and knock that out. So Victory Leaders Lounge is brought to you by Victory Leadership Coaching. Home of the Warrior Leadership Coaching Certification and first-time leaders course for new managers. Don't forget to check out victoryleadershipcoaching.com. That's my website. You can also buy our books at amazon.com. The books are Why Organizations Should Develop Their Leaders. It's a pocket guide for organizations, just real small, and Warrior Leadership, The Journey from Coach to Entrepreneur. And as always, don't forget to like and subscribe to all of our videos on YouTube, Spotify, Amazon Music, and before I take them down on all the other spots, also don't forget to like and share all the videos and all the other platforms. Okay, that is done. Now let's get to the good stuff. Wendi, how you doing today?
How are you doing, JJ? I'm doing great, thank you.
Oh, wonderful. I thank you for being a guest here. You're a fellow coach. You take care of transitioning service members, and I know that your business says you focus on women, but I know that you have a heart of gold and you help more than just women out. So, if you wouldn't mind, give an introduction, tell a little bit about yourself, what you have going on, and let's just have a good conversation.
Absolutely, JJ. And thank you so much for having me again. I know you and I connected through LinkedIn, which I'm a big supporter of LinkedIn. So for those of you that are not on there, highly encourage you to go on there. But thank you, JJ, for allowing me to be here and share with your audience a little bit about who I am, my experience, and also tools that will help either women or men during their military transition, because it is a preparation, right? Is a leadership kind of skill that we bring to the table as veterans. So I'm Wendi Wray, and I also have a podcast called Beyond the Military Podcast, where I focus on really the mental and emotional aspect of life and career, because we are already in a military mindset. We have been trained to focus on the mission, and that's great. But as we step into the civilian sector, there's more than just that, right? Now we have to reintegrate and be aware of this new identity that we're stepping into, this new chapter. And so that's what the podcast is all about, to empower, to educate, specifically women. I am focusing on a community of women so that we can not only be encouraged and encourage one another, but also to encourage the future leaders that are transitioning out of the military. But ultimately, the goal is, as a whole, as a coach, as a career coach, life coach, to again encourage and empower for more veterans to excel outside of the military. Because there's this one thing, JJ, that I've learned, at least through my transition and through the women that I've helped, is that we sometimes need a little push to go into something that is very, very uncertain, even though we already know that there's uncertainty in everything that we do. But it's just a little bit scarier because it's so unique to every single individual. And so I don't care if you're a woman, a man, married, not married, number in your bank account that you think is, going to help you, it's always going to bring that emotional aspect. And so that's really what drives me, JJ. And again, I thank you for allowing me to be here and continuing to share any resources or just little tips on how they can get empowered through their military transition into a leadership position as well.
Oh, yeah. Well, you know what? Offline, we should talk a little bit more about my Warrior Leadership Coaching Certification that I'm bringing out the first of the year. I think that your opinion would make that a heck of a lot better than it already is, even though I developed with a therapist. But, that's what it focuses on, is that emotional aspect.
Yeah.
We don't really focus on that as veterans, to be quite honest with you. It doesn't matter if you're male or female. I think females do a little bit better. But, as a whole, we're taught to kind of push things down, suck it up, and continue moving forward. And so I'm glad that you focus on that with your clients and on your podcast and all that other stuff, because it's a good message that needs to continue being put out there. So thank you for doing that. So what led you to business ownership. I know that a lot of us, we want to go out there and almost every veteran that I talk to, they're like, oh man, I gotta make sure I have a job and this and that and the other thing. But you and me, we're kind of kooky. We decided to go on the entrepreneurship route. What led you to that decision? And would you mind sharing a little bit of that journey with us?
Yeah, and also just to clarify, JJ, and again, maybe I didn't share this with you, so completely understand on that part. But I'm not 100% on the entrepreneur yet. I'm not as brave
Oh,
as you are just yet, but I
brave
will
or
say,
crazy? I don't know.
but I will say that I do this on the side, right? And it's something that I'm still learning and evolving into, and it's one of these things that you have to be willing to go all in and not be successful right away. By that I mean creating revenue, right? I don't think if you're not creating any revenue, or you're not bringing in making any sales, I should say, you're really not, having a business. But
Yep.
thankfully, I've selling is not. I'm still not the best salesperson, but I do a well job with selling it, even if it's on my social media or my emails. And I have had clients that, the referral system is always great, right? That come to me because someone heard or they've been coached by me. And so thankfully, that's what's been helping me along the way. But honestly, it's a passion that has helped me evolve into where I am now, right? Before I was like, I don't know if I'm sure if this will work. But the more I leaned into, okay, it's not going to be right. I may not say the things that they need to hear. I may not market correctly. My marketing campaign may not be the perfect thing, but it was more so of making a little mini plan, high level, and actioning on it, and then kind of getting feedback on, did it work, did it not work. And so you'll know when something is working because you're getting paid,
Yeah.
or you get the return on investment in a different way, right? Like people are reaching out and saying, hey, I did what you said on your podcast episode, and my resume got a lot better, and I got in the door. Or I was actually not feeling like, starting to even explore my opportunities outside of the military. But now, I started, and now I have a plan of getting out in the next 2 to 3 years. And so that's how you'll know, but you have to be willing to suck at it, and to be wrong, and to even fail. I know my first year, my podcast was, I mean, no one knew about my podcast, but I knew that it wasn't anyone else's fault but mine, right? How can I improve my marketing? How can I share it with as many people as possible? How can I do this differently? And that is the beauty of what veterans bring to the table,
Oh
right? We
yeah.
always think outside of the box. We don't give up easily because, I mean, we've gone through so many obstacles in the military, physically, mentally, right? I think it's more of a mental game. And so we continue to push. We're resilient. And I think that this is why now I'm almost on episode 250. And every week an episode comes out. And it's not because I'm like, oh, I'm going to do it and, just check the box. But it's because I'm always thinking about, what is that one thing that I could do today to serve someone? And another thing that's so valuable from military, right? We always want to serve. How do we serve our community? How do we serve other communities or our organization? And so to answer your question, that's really been key for me to continue to stay in the game of business, because it's not for everyone. It really isn't.
Oh
And
no. No.
hopefully eventually in the next couple of years, I'm going to be going all in as well.
Well, I think you kind of already have. I mean, it's like you have two lives all at the same time. What do you do with all your free time?
I sleep.
You sleep. I like it. No, that's good though. I
Yeah.
mean, over 200 episodes of your podcast. I think
Yeah.
so. I have two of them. One that I do with Derek Warrior Leadership, and then this one that I do that I live stream, and then I also put on all my platforms. But you know, I think between the two, I might have 100. So you're way ahead of that game than I am. But this is so fun because you get to meet people. Yeah, I mean,
Right.
podcasting is a great way to grow your business because you make meaningful connections. You're giving something to somebody by giving them the opportunity to share themselves with your audience. Not only that, but you're learning something every time you make a new contact. You're learning something, and when they share
Yes.
their story, personally
Yeah.
speaking, I love hearing people's story because it pumps
Yeah.
me up.
Right.
And I mean, my goodness, there are so many amazing people out there, and you don't get to meet them. until you do something cool like this, or go out into business, or maybe you start networking to get a job. And by the way,
Yes.
that's something that a lot of veterans don't think they're good at. But to be honest with you, we are. But it was more forced when we were on active duty. There was OPD, NCOPD,
Yes.
WOPD. I did the WOPD and the NCOPD my whole career. But those things are forced networking opportunities. There's a little bit of education, but for the most part, you're standing around jaw jacking and learning about what some of these other people do. And
Yeah.
I mean, I wish that more people on active duty would teach you how to leverage those rooms so that you can become more connected and learn about the different jobs out there, because
Yeah.
that's a skill that I mean, they can talk about it in TAP if they want to. You can talk about it all day long, but until you get out there and
Yeah.
practice those skills, it's hard. But they give us the opportunities to do that. And all of the skills that come with business, you have them, I have them. All it is going into something new, being uncomfortable as possible, and then kicking it in the face.
Right. Yeah, and again, with what you mentioned about we've been doing the whole networking all along, right? And we just don't see it in that way because it's more of a mandatory thing for us, right? We're like, we
Yes.
need to be here, but now how do we make the best out of this? But if I remember correctly, and I'm sure JJ, you have more stories than I do, but anything that we needed to get done had to be done like yesterday, right? And so in order for you to move in front of the line, an example that I can give you here, when you first go into a unit, I first went to Fort Drum, and I mean the S1 shop needed a lot of work to get done, and not to like blame or point any fingers, but the truth of the matter was that we had someone in that seat that was not an actual HR person, and they had other things, so they were like dual hatted. And so, bless their heart, but they were doing the best that they could. And so when it comes time for you to getting things done, we don't have time to just sit down and email and, sit behind the office. Like, no, we have to go out there and go talk directly to your companies, right? And you have to say, hey, Commander, First Sergeant, I'm here, first day here, but I'm happy to meet you. Please tell me how I can support you, how I can help. And when you show up in that way and you start connecting in that way that it's not about you, it's more about the other individual, then that connection becomes more genuine. And now like, okay, this is the work that I have to be cut for the next 90 days, next six months. And so we do this all the time. And I know you've done that before when you had to actually go, kick down a door, maybe not in that way, but where you're like, hey, I'm here, or you literally drive from one company to the next. When I was at Fort Liberty, we had to do that too. When I was at Corps level, I had to go from 82nd Airborne Division back to Corps, or go check on another organization where, I'm like, why email or call? I'm just going to show up and see if I can talk to them for 5 minutes, and that's all it takes sometimes when we think about it, and especially as leaders, right? When you have stakeholders, when you have other people that are going to be involved, picking up the phone sometimes is not enough. You have to go and show up for what you're there for, right? What you're serving, or what the value is that you bring to that organization. And so again, we do it all the time.
Yep.
It's just now a matter of doing it with more civilians.
I love doing that, by the way. That was probably my favorite part about
Me too.
making sure stuff got done. They can't
Yes.
avoid you when you're standing in front of their face.
Right. Yeah. And it's more, and it's not more to like intimidate or anything like
No,
that.
no,
It was
no,
more,
no.
yeah, it was more so like, hey, I'm serious about this, right? Like, hey, you have 5 people that are red that haven't gone to the dentist in over 2 years. What's going on? Let's help the soldier out,
Oh
right?
my
Like,
gosh. I think I remember being on active duty and seeing the version of you and all of the units that I was in and trying to run in the opposite direction. I don't want to
right.
go to the
Yeah.
dentist.
No, I'm still doing it now as a civilian. I'm like, dang it, has it been 6 months already?
Yep. Yep. Well,
But it,
now that I've been out and I'm getting a little bit older, those things it's great that I kind of built that over time, because now I make sure that I'm following
yeah,
up with the VA to get those appointments done. Health is
yes,
important. And, you're taught in the military to kind of put everything else to the side except for the mission. However, when
right,
you don't have a mission on the outside anymore, you got one thing that is great for people like you, and I do a little bit of it too, is that we kind of help clarify that mission for veterans just
Right.
through conversation. And it is difficult. TAP doesn't teach you how to go out and network. I mean, they tell you to go get that free 1 year premium LinkedIn. They do tell you
Yeah.
that, but okay, great. I got this shiny new tool. What do I do with it?
Exactly. And then you have no idea how to do it. You don't have the time. You're like, this is no longer necessary or convenient for me. So I'll start using it when I'm like 30 days or I have 30 days left of the, 1 year. Which
Yes.
by the way, for those of you listening and you're in the military, don't start using that free 1 year until you are serious about using your LinkedIn.
Oh, correct. Yes. Now let's talk about the other side of it, right? I mean, you talked about how we have great follow-up skills. We have the need to go and tackle things and get it done, but there's other things, right? That a lot of people have a misconception of, and I'm saying this because out of I think I have almost 2,800 people in my audience now. I don't know, but most of those people are in HR, operations, or whatever role that they're probably in the position to hire. As now that the election is over, you can get back to your hiring, and really do consider this veteran audience, because a lot of the thing, we're not just people that hold a gun and shoot, and we're not Gomer Pyle or any of those other people that you see on TV. We
Yeah.
actually force leadership, and everything that we do in the military. It's very similar to a corporate structure, and it's the biggest business in the world. Actually, the military is, and when you really consider it that way,
Yeah.
we're forced to be trained on leadership on a regular basis. We have working groups to tackle all the administrative problems. When we have a new mission, we come together as a team. We plan those missions out, and then we pass it down the chain where it needs to be, so that we get the right people in the right organizations to get the work done. And when you really consider it that way, we're planners, we're leaders, we are die hard, we're going to get the doggone mission done type of people, and we're excellent communicators. And we spend our whole adult life, whatever that is, whether it's 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, 40 years, whatever,
Right.
caring about the people to our left and right. That doesn't mean we liked them, but we cared about them.
Yes. Yeah, and that is a great point, right? The emotional intelligence that comes behind that.
Yep.
I don't care what you did in the military, if you were a platoon sergeant, a company commander, if you were a squad leader. I mean, you had to, at one point in your career, take care of your battle buddy, our coworker, our teammate, if we could say, for
Yep.
those civilians listening. And it's one of the things, I mean, honestly, I went to basic training and I had to have a battle buddy at all times. And so what that does to you mentally, it creates this opportunity of camaraderie and also like no man left behind. And by that I mean mentally and emotionally, physically as well, of course. And so it creates this opportunity that we now care for one another in any way possible that you can even imagine. Like, we know the ins and outs about this individual. Like, I know that they're struggling, in their marriage, or I know that they're financially not stable, or I know that, this individual is going through some health, crisis, maybe not for them specifically personally, but maybe their children, right? And so we know all of these details, and that helps us be compassionate. That helps us understand how they are feeling,
Hmm.
and then understand how we are feeling about how they are feeling. And
Correct.
so while all of that is happening in the background, we are still getting things done. Now, not in a way where like, oh, we're just going to forget and, suck it up and drive on. Maybe not in that way, but in a way of like, hey, I know you've got this going on. I know you're not going to perform as you typically do. So I am going, as a leader, provide more kind of oversight or more support during the season, during this time that you're going through this. Or I'm going to make the decision, because that's what we do in the military. We make decisions.
Hmm.
What I've noticed, the difference between in the military and corporate, is that
They
in
him haul
corporate
around.
there's,
Oh yeah.
yeah, it's like we could wait for weeks, and I'm like, what is happening here? Like, let's just do it. What's the worst that can happen? And in the military, we just do it, and we ask for forgiveness later, whatever that may bring. But again, like those are the things that the military prepares us for. We allow ourselves to be compassionate, not in a way, right, that you could imagine like, oh, okay, we're just going to sit down with you and coddle you. No, not in that way,
Right.
but in a way where we make decisions and we show it differently than in the civilian sector. So I
You're
love
right.
that you touched
Yep.
on that.
Yep. You're right. And you know what? We are so um, trained to make decisions. I mean, it's a level of ownership, is what it is.
Yes.
They don't explain the importance of taking ownership in the civilian workforce nearly as much as they do in the military, because you know at every tier, you know, of management in the military, you know, they're given that sense of ownership, because it's like I'm giving you direction, take it and pass it down to your troops, and you walk away, and then they come back later to check to see what the status is and if they can help. And how it gets done, well, who cares? But you know what?
Right.
They know that their NCOs, and actually their soldiers that aren't even in a leadership position, are going to be out there making decisions on a daily basis to get things
Right.
done. I tell you what, you brought up some stuff. I'm not going to get into those things, but you know, when you were mentioning all of the times where, you know, we got down to the nitty gritty, we helped the soldiers make sure they understood how to clean their room. We would get in there. We're kind of a family, because we
Yeah.
are so in their business as junior NCOs that it's like they're our children.
Yeah.
And so I remember all the stories, all the times where I got called by the police to come pick people up. You know,
Yes.
it's just you kind of
Yeah.
struck a chord there, and so now all I have are these crazy things popping through my mind. And let's not mention back when I was in the barracks. Those are stories
Oh,
we don't
wow.
discuss.
Yeah, those are just too classified. No, I hear you. Yeah, I do remember those times too. It's like, wait, what? It's always like on a 3-4 day weekend, right? You're like, oh, I'm enjoying my time, and they're like, wait, what? I have to go down to the station. And no, you said it. And
Yes.
again, it's those little things, right, that we carry along the way. And then, we're making decisions, we're getting things done, and we're constantly checking up on one another. And that's honestly one of the things that I do miss, not being in people's business, but really just, being taken care of and taking care of others in that manner, because we don't get it anywhere else.
No, well, and
Let's be honest.
it's not a matter of getting in people's business. When I brought all those things up, and you'll probably back this up, it we're getting people straight out of high school. So these people may or may not have had very good house training. So that, I mean, what skills did they learn from their parents? What did they not learn from their
Yes.
parents? What did they get out of society before they came into the military? Maybe they did. Maybe they don't even know how to budget. I mean, that the 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 military leadership structure is built in such a way where the design is, as a junior NCO, you are down on the ground with your troops, and sometimes that means creating a budget. Sometimes it's creating a nutrition plan. Sometimes it's teaching them how to clean their room, or even
Yes.
balance a checkbook, which we don't do anymore because everything is digital. But back
Right.
when I was younger, things were. I'm not a dinosaur, people, but it's been a while. Um, but you know, it's great because these skills, it's like we were taught to be a parent before we even had kids ourselves. And so, you
Yes.
know, the military is just this wonderful ecosystem where we're able to come together and support each other. And the soldiers actually look at it as support. Yeah, we were like mom and dad. The E5 and the E6 was like mom, dad, and grandpa, or something like that, where we're making sure they're good. They
Yeah.
can't stand us, but when push comes to shove, you know, they're going to pick up the phone when they need to, because
Right.
they trust you.
Right. That's the key word right there. Trust. That is everything. Everything in really overall as a leader, right?
Yes.
Like if you can't be trusted, I mean, why are you here?
Yep. Yep. Yep.
So
Yep. And you mentioned it all: emotional intelligence, all of the stuff that goes into leadership. But you know, that's why I have the business that I do, because I notice that it's missing, and I'm sure you notice that it's missing as well. There's no training when you first get a leadership position. There's no nurturing process. People don't come together and have conversations about what they're going to do when this person's struggling and that person's struggling. And I really
right.
miss all of those things. But we don't bring all this up just to be these old head military storytellers. No, we bring this up because when you hire somebody who has more than 8 years in the military into your organization, you're bringing somebody in that has the experience to where they care about every single person that's under their charge. They care about their peers, and they care about the people that are senior to them, and
Right.
they will be up and down that chain of command on a regular basis when they're given a task and their team has to do something, because they want to make sure that it gets done. And your organization will be better for it, because everyone's going to start communicating better. It's that whole decentralized leadership idea.
Yes. Yep. That is exactly it. The communication piece and just wanting to learn more, right? Like we are always eager to, okay, what's next? Now that what is after this? Like
Oh
what's
yeah.
more to come?
Yep, yep, and the soldiers are too, because the motto of the military is hurry up and wait. So we worked like hell to get this one thing done, and then the soldiers are like, "Oh man, what are we supposed to do? Just sit around here in the motor pool and smoke our cigarettes? I mean, what's really going on here?" And you
Right.
show up, and they're like, "Oh crap, what does he have for us to do now?" Oh,
Right.
I'm sorry. Stories. I love my time in the military. But anyway, we're over 25 minutes. One thing that I would like to do for you, Wendi, if is give you an opportunity to do one or two or both things. One, share a great message that you think would be wonderful for the audience to hear. And in addition to that, if you have any promotions or anything going on in your business or a
Yeah.
new project that you're working on, I would love for you to share that with us.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think the most recent thing that has come, or at least that I've experienced with one of my clients, and I know it'll be beneficial, especially as a leadership platform here. It's okay if you're pivoting, right? Or maybe you just got into a leadership position or you're getting out and you're a leader in the military and now you're pivoting in a whole new industry, whole new space of what you're used to. I would say that it's okay to feel the way that you're feeling. And that is a little bit of confusion, a little bit of uncertainty, and even a little bit of like doubt. And this comes up in everyone. I know for the most part, women, we tend to get into self doubt a little bit more, but I can't speak on all women, right? But for the most part, all humans, we have emotions. We will get those three emotions sometimes, waves here and there. And what I want to encourage you to do is to just allow for that to come up, meaning allow that emotion to just, sit with that emotion. Like it's okay, it's normal. Because what we typically tend to do, what we try to do, especially as like if you're someone I'm not type A personality, but a lot of my type A women that come to me and they're like driven and they've been company commanders and they're like, I just want to go and be hands-on and do it all. There's this sense of resisting those negative emotions, meaning that the way I like to describe this is the emotion is a beach ball, right? It may be self doubt, it may be confusion or uncertainty, and they grab that beach ball and they push it slowly and slowly into the water, and then eventually that water, you put it in, say you're in a pool, one of those beach balls, you put it in, you keep resisting it. You're like, okay, no, it's not happening. I'm just gonna keep pushing on as I typically do, but eventually that ball's gonna come up. It's just gonna have to happen, and it may happen right as you're either getting into that role or your um, last day in the military, whatever it may be, and then other things are going to come up. But I encourage you to be aware of what you're doing. Either you're resisting it, like I mentioned, either you're reacting to it, maybe at home, you're showing up differently, or maybe you are, possibly saying things in a different way, maybe, louder, or you're going off on somebody at the store. Just again, these are just examples.
Let's hope not.
um, yeah, I hope not, but it does happen,
Yeah.
right? Maybe you're like honking just because you're like, oh crap, like I just need to, let this out. Or you're possibly just even trying to avoid it. And by that, we're doing different things too. We get more busy. I know that sometimes my get, I try to get busy. I try to just do something other than, it may be, scrolling all day. It may be doing like the Netflixing or, whatever it is for you. You know what it is. Don't get sucked into those kind of like, reacting, resisting, or even trying to avoid it completely, but instead lean into it.
Mhm.
And here's why I bring this up, because we're human, right? No matter how much time you've been doing that one thing, no matter how, skilled you are, it's going to happen, especially if you're pivoting or you're into this new leadership role, because believe me, you get a sense of obligation or responsibility. So it's a little heavy sometimes on your shoulders when you know you have people to lead. And so, trust me, I went through this as I was transitioning into being like a solo kind of individual contributor in the military as a second lieutenant into, oh crap, I have a team for myself. Like, what am I going to do? Right. And so that happens to all of us, but it just happens in different phases. And so, what I encourage you to do is to just allow that to be there. Don't get sucked in also in just being in self doubt all the time, but just being aware, right? Going back to the emotional intelligence, being aware that it's there, talking to someone, maybe even getting a coach, right? Like yourself, JJ, getting, into your program, getting into reading one of your books or listening to podcasts like these, right? That will help you not only stay educated, but encourage you to keep in your leadership career. And the same thing if you're getting out of the military, right? Find someone, a mentor that you can reach out and say, hey, JJ, I know you got out 10 years ago. Can you share with me a little bit about your experience? Because let me share with you, I'm kind of feeling like I don't know if I'm going to make it. I don't know if I'm going to actually be able to do this operations manager position. And so, the same thing if you're in a leadership position in corporate or anywhere really, reach out to that one individual that will highlight and remind you of why you're now in that position. Because as our own kind of mental human brain, we tend to forget sometimes that we are in this position for a reason.
Mm-hmm.
And the same thing when we're transitioning out. You were in the military for 10, 8 years, 20 years for a reason. You've earned your time. You've owned your leadership position. So it's not that corporate's going to give you this automatic, operations manager position. You've earned it.
Mm-hmm.
And so again, doing these little things where you just allow, okay, feeling a little uncertain, feeling a little self-doubt, that's fine. But now this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to reach out to somebody that knows me really well, can mentor me, can help me network into the civilian sector to equip me and continue to remind me about the tools that I do have so that then I can continue to stay on point, to stay on, continue to drive where I'm going. Because that's ultimately what we want, right? We want to continue to stay focused on our leadership and continue to grow as a leader.
Yep.
There's no perfect leader.
I
So
agree.
you're just going to define that along the way.
Yep. Don't forget about your journey. You got there because you leaned into the uncomfortable, and you're not gonna continue to have success outside of the service without leaning into the uncomfortable. I always tell people, get comfortable being uncomfortable. But
yes,
no, that's a highly valuable message there, Wendi. So thank you for sharing that. We did a lot of hard work and put up with a lot of crap to get to where we are. Yeah. Don't think that that's not valuable just because it's worded differently when you move to the outside of the military. We earned what we get. So, Wendi, thank you for coming on the show. Thank you for thank you for doing what you do. I mean, helping transitioning people is it's an important job, because otherwise who's going to be there for them? I love being there for my fellow service members. And going into Veterans Day, especially, thank you for serving. We never ran into each other while we were wearing the uniform. However, we met here, and thank you for everyone out there who has served, is continuing to serve, and is wearing the uniform and putting up with all the crap you got to put up with to make sure that this nation is safe.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, JJ, for having me, and happy Veterans Day to all of you that have served. Thank you for your service, and go get this Warrior Leadership book. I'm pretty sure we'll get some good nuggets out of there. I'm going to go get it.
Okay. Very good. Well, I appreciate that. And thank you again. And out there, we'll see you next time. And this was an episode on Victory Leaders Lounge.